Welcome to our social classes, my dear students. I hope you all are doing well and following the lessons and able to concentrate on your studies. So now let us revise what happened till now. So in the previous classes I explained about the situation in this world during the ending or last part of 19th century and how it was in the earlier part of the 20th century. And I also explained very clearly and in detail how the 20th century was described. So as per Eric Hobsbawm, it was described as the age of extremes. And we have also seen why it is called as age of extremes, and we have seen the things, the situations happened during the 20th century. About the wars, about the depression, about the scientific advancement, about the literacy rate, about the various philosophies developed during this 20th century. So all these things I explained you in detail. So next I also explained about the world war, impact of world wars happened in the world. So how many people died in the First World War, how many people died in the Second World War. So how the situations changed the lifestyle of the persons. So all these things I very clearly explained in the first two lessons, and now let us see what happened after that. So when we talk about the world wars, we should also know what really happened in the world at that time. So already I explained that the Industrial Revolution has completely changed the situation of the world. So it divided the world into two parts, developed nations and backward nations, or industrialized nations and colonies. So like that the world was divided into two parts, especially in Europe we find a great change. So in Europe also we find the power blocks. So power blocks. So here power blocks means groups, and for the sake of the power, for the sake of the domination, for the sake of the control over the other nations, over the other territories, so the entire Europe was divided into power blocks. Block means a group. Power blocks means all the countries which are having power, they divided into different groups. So like that, the European continent was divided. So in the beginning, you learned in the 19th century. So in 19th century, in our 9th class, we learned about the nation states. Nation states. So we very clearly learned about this nation states in our 9th class itself. And we also learned many movements, many revolutions, many agitations took place in European continent during the 19th century about these nation states. So what are these nation states? So what do you call the nation states? Nation states are nothing but, for example, if you want to understand very clearly about these nation states, so who are we? We are Indians. Where are we living? We are living in India. Who are the rulers? We people are the rulers. So we follow a constitution. And what are the boundaries of India means? We are talking about the boundaries. We are learning about the powers of the people. And we are learning, and we all are speaking different languages. And we identify ourselves as Indians, because we are following such a culture, such a tradition, and we all feel that we have descended from some group or from sect. So that's why we feel ourselves as Indians. In the same way, in European continent also, before the 19th century, there is no proper rule, there is no proper boundary. So whoever has the power, they used to dominate the countries, they used to occupy the territories and declare themselves as the leaders. So sometimes we also learned in 9th class about all these things. So people living in one state, or this is, suppose if this is a small country, and these people are speaking one language, and they are following certain tradition, and they are following certain system, but these people are ruled by some other kings who doesn't belong to this group, who doesn't belong to this category at all. So some X or Y, a foreigner used to rule the people who are following certain traditions and following certain languages and area. So this is what happened in European continent. So people are not ruled by their own people. So some other X, Y, Z kings used to rule that area. So they used to occupy these territory under their country. For example, if you take England used to control the people of other territories who doesn't or who do not belong to their language or tradition or customs. So then what will happen? Automatically people living in this country will get some irritation. So who are there to rule us? So we too have a language, we too have a tradition, but these people, the controllers, the dominators, they never allow the people to follow their culture or traditions or talk their language. They always used to dump their language and tradition in other nations. So this is what we have seen in India during the Britishers' rule. And when Britishers ruled our country, they never allowed, they encouraged their English education, they encouraged their Western culture in India. They never supported us and they never allowed us to follow our culture. So then automatically what will happen among the people? People will also try to develop or will also start a movement against the rulers. So that is what we say national revolutions, or that is what we say nationalistic revolutions. Nationalism. So we learned many revolutions in our 9th class history, especially we learned about Germany unification. We learned about Italy unification. So in that Germany and Italy unification, these countries they try to establish nation states. So what are nation states means? Nation states are nothing but they follow one culture, they follow one religion, they accept one sovereignty, and they fix their boundaries and try to enforce their powers within those boundaries. So those are called nation states. So here also we find the development. So during the 19th century we see the establishment of these nation states. So in the last class also Germany, it formed as a nation state. Italy, it also formed as a nation state. So like that many countries in Europe, they formed themselves into nation state by accepting one culture, one nation, one ruler, one customs like that. Okay, so they all feel themselves to belong to one country or one territory. So that is what we call nation states. So this thing happened in at the end of the 19th century. By the end of the 19th century, most of the countries in Europe they formed into nation states. But so what is the impact of industrialization? So all these nation states, for example, Germany is a nation state, Italy is a nation state, Britain is a nation state. So like that, these nation states, they formed into some groups, they formed into some blocks in order to dominate or in order to dominate the other nations in the world. So all these nation states, they formed into alliances. Alliances means groups. They formed into power blocks. So they formed into power blocks. For example, Germany is a nation state. And Germany and its alliances. Alliances means groups or friends. So Germany and Germany friends, they formed into one power block. Britain and Britain's friends, they formed into another another power block. So like that, most of the countries in Europe, they formed into power blocks. And these power blocks became the war camps. So what is a camp means? We go to NCC camps. So what do you do there? So you go to that place and stay there for some time and get some training. So you get some training. Suppose if it is necessary for the army to go for the war, from there itself they go to the battlefield. So like that, so these power blocks became the war camps. War camps means here they give the training for the soldiers. Here they supply the weapons, and here from there itself they go to the war field and fight with their enemies. So this is what happened in Europe at the time. So all these power blocks, they formed as the war camps, and there they started giving training for the soldiers or for the countries. So like that, the entire Europe was formed into power blocks. Next, and these national and movements of national states. So by the end of the 19th century, most of the countries in Europe, they involved in some national movements. So they want to get some independence, they want to get some recognition in the world. And next, and these national states, so after becoming the national states, after declaring themselves as the national states, powerful bloc, they started establishing extending their kingdoms. So we also see the scramble. So what is the meaning of scramble? Scramble means it is not at all in an order. If something is not in an order, we call it as scramble. So what happened here? Here if you see this picture, so this is a power bloc or an important or powerful country. This powerful country started establishing their colonies in various parts of the Europe. So the powerful bloc or the main important country, for example, if you take Germany or Britain or something, so the Britain will establish the countries or the colonies in various parts of the world or in the various parts of Europe. And these colonies are trying to become national states. They are trying to get independence from others. But these power blocks are controlling them and putting them under their control. So like that we see the scramble of powers. Scramble of power. Scramble means it is nothing but scattering of the powers, scattering of the influence. So these states are following certain cultures and language, but this country, the powerful country is trying to dominate the other nations. So with this, what will happen? These countries will also try to fight against the main country. Like that we find many revolutions in European continent by the end of the 19th century. And so these powerful blocks also they formed into groups. So powerful bloc itself means it is a group. So all the powerful countries, basing on their future, basing on their rivalry, basing on their expansion. Suppose if I want to expand my country, I may join my hands with the other powerful country in Europe. Suppose if I want the raw materials from other countries, so I may join my hands with some other country. Here we never see whether they are our rivals or friends. Sometimes if it is must and should, we have to join our hands even with our enemies also. The same thing happened in Europe at that time. So some countries, some powerful blocs, some powerful countries, they came together. They came together and formed themselves into alliance or friends. So let us see what countries joined together. So there is nothing to confuse at all. Here we see the countries which are national states, they formed into powerful power blocks, and these power blocks acted as the war camps during the war time. So what is war camps means? These powerful countries, they come to one understanding. They form into different groups, and they made some agreements with each other. What will be that agreement? Suppose I am and you are friends. Suppose if the third person is coming to attack me or you, so So then what I should do as a friend of you, I should also come and stand before you to help you, and I should send my army, I should send my weapons, and in that way, if anything happens to any of the countries in the power blocks in this group, the other countries should definitely help those countries. This like that, they make some agreements with each other, or otherwise they may share their knowledge with each other, they may share their financial or economic things with each other. Like that, they come to an understanding. That is only we call the friendship. So what is there when I am in some problem, if you are not coming and rescuing me, what is the use of friendship? Here also all the powerful countries, they formed into groups to help each other at the time of problems, at the time when they need some help from other countries. Like that, the entire Europe country or Europe continent was formed into various groups. So mainly we find two important groups in Europe, two powerful blocks. How many? Two powerful blocks, two main blocks. Yes, two main blocks are formed in Europe. One is the central. One is the center group, and next one is the Entente or alliance. The Entente or alliance. Alice means friends. Alliances, we also call them as alliances. Here like that we find the center group, the center and the Entente or alliance, and result of the scramble of powers and control over the territories. So why these groups are formed? So it resulted in the scrambling. Here I told about the scrambling of powers. Scrambling of means distribution of the powers in an unequal way. So when powers are distributed, so this country is controlling the country which is far away from them. So then one country is controlling the country which do not belong to their things at all. So this is called scrambling of the powers. So these two blocks formed out of the scrambling of the powers, result of the scramble of the powers and control over the territories. So control and scrambling. So these are the two reasons why these two powerful blocks are formed. So scrambling means, I told you, so when the powers are unequally distributed, when kings and other people are occupying the countries unnecessarily and without any procedure, and control, when one country is trying to control the other nations, so then all the countries which are on one side, they formed as one group, and other countries they formed into other groups. So for what reason? To protect themselves. Protection is very important. When a powerful king is trying to control the other nations, first of all, these countries should be able to protect themselves from that enemy, stronger enemy. In order to control the stronger enemy, the other countries should join their hands with the other stronger enemy. So that is the matter in politics. So when you can't directly face a strong person, so we should at least be with a person, be with another strong person. Okay, so like that they formed into group, the center group and the Entente group or alliance group. So this is what happened in Europe at the time. And the next one is and all these groups are formed basically on the basis of insecurity. So I will explain you. Insecurity is the main reason for forming the blocks. And next one is secret, and all these groups are formed secretly. And already we learned in the 9th class about some secret groups. So what are those secret groups about? We learned about the Anglican group, some more groups in the 9th class. So these groups are formed secretly because when the powerful leaders, they know about the organization of these groups. So they suspect them and they simply try to suppress them and they never allow them to raise their voice in the public. So mainly these countries, the groups are formed secretly without the knowledge of others, without others know about their secrets, maintain their secrets in a very secretive way. So most of the alliances are formed secretly. And next one is between known enemies, and these are formed between known enemies. So these are formed between known enemies. Who are known enemies means, for example, for the outer world, they are enemies. For example, Britain and France, they are known enemies to the entire world. So when you talk about Britain and when you talk about France, people say that if you throw a grass between them, it burns like anything. So both of them are good enemies. So there is no question of friendship between them. So like that we think about these two countries for the outer world, but inside and inside, so secretly they maintain some relations. And these relations are only selfish relations. So these relations are formed because of some insecurity between these two nations from the other nations. So like that, these are secretly formed, and these are known enemies. So these alliances and these friendship or these blocks are formed between the known enemies. For example, I told about Britain and France. In the same way, we find a good relation between Germany and Austria, who are also the known enemies. So in 9th class also we learned about the enmity between France and Germany because of at the time of formation of Germany. So these two countries, they fought with each other every time. So for the entire world, they continue their enmity. They seem to continue their enmity, but they have their hidden agenda. They have their hidden relations or friendly relations with each other. Like that, we find two powerful blocks. One is the center, and another one is entertainment or allies. So this is what we find in this lesson. Next important topic is causes of the world war. So this is very important for your public point of view. Compulsorily we are going to get 2 marks question from this point, from this concept, causes. So in the last class I explained about the results of the first, second world war. Today I am explaining the cause of the first and second world war. So what we say, before going through, there will be some similarities and dissimilarities about the war. So why you fight with that person means there may be some similarities, there may be some dissimilarities. So this fellow is getting first rank and this fellow is getting last rank. That's why there is a rivalry between these two boys. So that is a dissimilarity. That fellow also wants to sit in the first bench and this fellow also wants to sit in the first bench. Here also we find similarity. So for every cause, for every thing, we find similarities and dissimilarities. Okay. So here what are the similarities between the First World War and Second World War? So what is the first similarity? We find the death rates. So first World War also resulted in more death rates, and Second World War also resulted in more death rates. So in times of death, we find similarity. And the First World War changed the entire economic situation of the world. That is a similarity. The Second World War also changed the entire economic standards of the world. That is also similarity. So we find so many groups formed after the First World War. Second World War also, after the Second World War also, we find the formation of more groups. So all these are the similarities. So at the same time, we find some dissimilarities also. And before that, we should understand what are the causes of the First World War and Second World War. So causes means when you talk about the causes, there may be of two different types of causes. So for example, if you see a volcano, So if you see a volcano, so we find the lava erupting out of the volcano. So you may find a small reason for the eruption. So here something, a gap was formed on the top of the mountain. That's why the lava came out of the mountain. Okay, so the lava was exploded. So this is the immediate cause. But inside the volcano we see many internal changes formed under the earth. So we don't find these changes. We can't even identify the changes happened under the earth, in the mantle. But we simply see the explosion of the volcano mountain. So we can see only the effect, but we can't see the hidden reasons for the eruption of the mountain. So in the same way, if you compare this volcano mountain as a wall, here also we find the two different reasons. One may be termed as a long reason, and another one may be termed as an immediate reason. So immediate reason and long reason. We can see the immediate reason, but we cannot see the long-term causes. Long-term causes. So these long-term causes may be mounted up for years together, for decades together, and finally that will result in the form of an immediate cause. So what are these immediate causes of the First World War, and what are the immediate causes of the Second World War? We shall learn in the next concept. So until then, you stay at home and you try to understand what the teachers are explaining in the class. So you try to note down the points that we are writing on the blackboard and try to understand the concepts well. So one important thing is, don't come out of your houses, always wear mask, and you protect your lives for yourself. Have a good day. So let us meet in the next class. Until then, goodbye.